You know, food is one of those shared treasures.
A beat 'em up with a new formula has entered the ring, and it is such an interesting mix that it makes you wonder why it wasn't done before. Absolum is a 2D beat 'em up with a mechanic that keeps you coming back to the game even after finishing the story. Normally, beat 'em ups are played to get through the missions and get through the story, but you always want to keep playing because the gameplay loop on this one changes completely. That mechanic is the roguelike mechanic, where when you die, you start from zero, but you keep progressing even if you die. As long as you're killing enemies and bosses, you're progressing and becoming stronger. It also has biomes that you can choose where to go instead of forcing you on a straight path. With 4 characters on release, the game becomes a bundle of content that you can't keep your hands from.
Now let's talk about characters.
You start the game with the choice to use Karl or Galandra. Karl is a gnome with big hands that come in handy when you need to punch things on the face. His special is a shotgun that can be upgraded to act as a bunch of different weapons, and his skill is a headbutt that lifts enemies to continue juggling them into combos. Galandra is an elf with a big ass sword. A sword so big she only uses it with her special move and skill. The sword has more range than usual, and this extends how you punish enemies when you guard a move that pushes you back. As you progress the story, you unlock Cider and then Brome. Cider is a combo or string focused character. Her special move is a hook that gets you closer to enemies so you can extend the combos. The difference between her and the other characters is that most ending moves don't bounce enemies off the ground, but lifts them to continue with air combos. Brome is a wizard frog that can deflect magic with his skill and has more area of effect attacks. He is also very focused on throwables to deal damage. Each of these characters has personalities and combos that spice up every run depending on what upgrades you pick and what special you're using in the run.
Tell me a bit about the story.
The story is a basic hero takes back their home arc, but the way it is told changes depending on the path you take as you play. The main characters are seen as enemies everywhere they go because they're wizards and have powers others don't have. This leads to every creature you encounter wanting to fight you. There are so many different types of enemies that even after 10 hours of gameplay, I was finding enemies I hadn't seen before. And each of these enemies has a new moveset you have to learn to be able to beat them.
How's the presentation? How does the game look?
The way the game looks is so beautiful. It feels like you're playing a hand-drawn world. The colors used to show the moves are so bright and vibrant that every time you do a counter and see the animation, you get excited for the camera to pan in and out and show you the characters in slow motion. Every biome is pretty and full of colors. Even the ones with darker tones are made with such bright highlights that makes you appreciate the way they look. The colors change so much through the story, and the enemy designs are so good that it makes it feel like a fantasy world. Even though the world and the maps are beautiful, they could benefit from graying out columns when you enter combat. Sometimes as I'm fighting, I go behind a column and can't see what's going on, which leads to an enemy making a move and hitting me. There are a lot of places the game could work on to improve visual clarity during combat. Another issue is visual clutter when playing online. The game can be played online or couch co-op. There is 2-player mode, and you can have an infinite amount of runs with anyone at any time. It doesn't matter if your levels are not the same. The amount of enemies on screen can be overwhelming, especially if you and your partner are pulling off combos with effects that zoom the camera in and out. Speaking on the multiplayer, this is the only part where the game gave me issues. On my 20-hour run, I have 2 occasions where I could not progress after finishing an encounter. I ended up fixing the issue by leaving online, and the good thing is that you don't lose the run. When you leave or your partner leaves, you can continue by yourself until you finish the run or you die.
Are you talking about the music?
For the ones that know, I can basically summarize this session by saying this game has soundtrack made by Mick Gordon. For those that don't know, the soundtrack is just simply amazing. You get so many different tracks, varying per level or biome, but escalating and changing completely the moment you're about to fight a boss. Every single boss soundtrack is amazing.
Tell them how we fight. Tell them about the gameplay.
The gameplay consists of always progressing even if you die. If you get to a boss and kill it, you progress even more. As long as you're playing, no matter how long your runs are, you're always stacking up experience and coins to buy skills. You start in the same room where you pick your character, you pick your special, and you get to pick between 3 options on upgrades. These are the upgrades that change the way the game plays drastically. You can combine these upgrades as you like, and there will be moments where you pick an upgrade that synergizes with another upgrade, making a build so strong that your run is basically guaranteed to succeed. You have 3 defensive moves that you need to use to be able to beat the game. You have a deflect. That is basically you dodge in when someone hits you and you block it. If the enemy hits you and you dodge, you parry the move without taking any damage. You have dodge, which is the same button as deflect, but you dodge away from the attack. And then you have clash. Some enemies do a red attack that can't be deflected. It can only be dodged or clashed. If you dodge, it's harder for you to do damage. But if you clash, there's a big window of opportunity to do damage. You can clash every enemy move if you're good enough. This is challenging to do because the clash is done by using the special or skill buttons, triangle and R2 on PlayStation and Y or right trigger on Xbox. Pulling off a clash is worth the effort in-game and visually. Every character has a grab, a regular string, and a skill that you can mix and match to extend the combos. If you do the same move over and over, the enemy takes less damage, leading you to always changing it up and making sick-ass combos in the process.
Get ready for a sick-ass combo. Boom.
There are no infinite combos at the beginning because there's a moment the enemies become overpressure, becoming immune to damage for a few seconds. Now, notice how I said at the beginning. This is where making builds becomes a surprise as you get different upgrades. The last thing you get is the ultimate. Every character has one and it's a one-time move during a run, unless you get an upgrade that says otherwise or you buy it with coins in the run. There are a few skill trees that you can upgrade as you get experience and kill bosses. You will upgrade the skill trees as you play. I love everything about the gameplay loop, but I do have to admit that the upgrades are very limited. There are a lot of upgrades, but the amount of mechanics the game has, it could have benefited from more random upgrades. For accessibility, there is an assist mode. You can change how much damage you do to enemies and how much damage the enemies do to you. Now, you can use this. I won't tell anyone. You bought the game.
Dialogue. I'd rather punch things in the face.
Even though there isn't a lot of dialogue in the game, most of the dialogues are voice acted, and this makes the characters have more personality. You can tell how grumpy Karl is just from small quips whenever he finds that common trinket, or how educated Brom is whenever he says anything about the world around him. Every now and again, the characters talk about small things of interest around the world that give you more lore about the characters and the story. The characters also talk to each other about their past lives whenever you finish a run or whenever you're starting a run.
Side missions and secrets.
There are so many secrets in the game that sometimes it makes me think the devs are just secretly adding stuff. Every secret in the game feels well earned when you randomly punch a wall and there's a chest behind it. Entering a biome and seeing an NPC with a quest is always surprising because you don't have to follow it. But you know that if you do, you will have loot. Sometimes going into a biome and thinking of going the same exact route, just as before, can be completely different because the tiles change, and this gives the game a breath of fresh air. 10 hours after playing the game, I realized there was a path I never took. Once I started playing through that path, the game threw completely different enemies and tiles I had never seen before. The amount of content this game has is impressive, and I cannot wait to see how they expand the game with DLC. A game as beautiful as this, with this formula, needs to be experienced by more people. This game is on PS5, PS4, Switch, and Steam. Please go ahead and get it. A game that mixes mechanics to be its own thing is such a nice surprise. It might seem obvious now that these mechanics work together, but that was after this game came out. Part of me will be expecting all beat 'em ups to have these mechanics, and if they don't, they might need to bring something else to the table. This could be the new norm from now on.
Finally, I can rest a bit. All I need is some food, and also for you to subscribe.